Hey everyone, thanks for your support in 2024. We have a lot of cool stuff coming in 2025, and here are some of the things you can look forward to as we move into next year. In the lead up to The Mandalorian and Grogu in 2026, we'll be starting a full series rewatch of both The Mandalorian and The Book of Boba Fett on exploring hyperspace lanes beginning in October. You can also expect a rewatch of Andor, and we will have reviews of every episode of Andor and the rest of the Skeleton Crew as those come out. Josie will be returning as we continue to rank every Star Wars thing released ever. Reviews of every episode of every Marvel Disney Plus show, including Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, The Eyes of Wakanda, Wonder Man, Ironheart, Daredevil Born Again, and Marvel Zombies, the day after each episode releases, will be available on Beware of Spoilers. We'll be having special event podcasts on 30-minute reviews for the Academy Awards, our 2024 year in review in early January, ranking all of Phase 5 of the MCU after Fantastic Four First Steps comes out, and our 10th anniversary special. Once we complete our rankings of all the Pokemon games on the backlog files, we'll be moving on to Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy. Over on the YouTube channel, you can join in for playthroughs of Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, Pokemon White, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, Kingdom Hearts Recoded, Mario Golf Toadstool Tour, Sonic Adventure 2, LEGO Racers 2, LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga, and SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. Want to keep on top of all the new things we have coming? Subscribe at mwpnews.com, subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/@mwpnews, or subscribe to Beware of Spoilers, 30-minute reviews, exploring hyperspace lanes, and the backlog files on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Again, thank you for your support. Good morning, afternoon, and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam on this Saturday, first Saturday of the new year, and we're here today to talk about not just how loud my car is when it's cold. I'm thinking this is just a Ford thing, because this is now my second Focus, and it's the same thing where the car gets loud and dramatic when it's cold. I don't remember my Civic doing this. But regardless, we're here to talk about Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Fowl, which I think it's going to count as a 2025 movie, because I think it came out officially for us out here in the States. It came out on the 2nd. So it could make next year's top 10. Unlike, unfortunately... let's not go there, because I don't want to get into that discussion. But this is the second, I had to look it up, the second theatrical feature-length Wallace and Gromit movie after Curse of the Were-Rabbit, 20 years ago. And this one follows, Wallace as he has his inventions, and he is, he's trying to figure out a way to get out of debt. So he comes up with this robot that is a little gnome, and it's going to do your chores for you, like do your lawn care, do your outside, your yard maintenance, all that stuff. It's going to do all that stuff for you, and then if you do all of that, he's gonna rent it out to people to do it all for them, and it's this interesting story of artificial intelligence is what it is at its core, where it's because when the movie starts out, everything he does is automated, and that's kind of the thing where it's out of the gate, I'm like, oh, that's really a nice little allegory. Even when he gets out of bed, he gets out of bed, he goes to the shower, even things like making his tea, making his breakfast, patting Gromit on the head are all things that are done entirely through AI, rather than doing it himself. And it's there are certain things that are human. And then you get to the scene in the garden where we get the introduction of Norbot, who is the little gnome, and you get to that point and he's like, oh, well, you see Gromit out there in the garden, he's taking pride in how he keeps it how he likes. And he's like, I trained the robot on all of these, I trained the AI on all of these, like, gardening shows, DIY gardening shows. So he does it, and it looks kind of uniform. And everyone's yard ends up looking the same as they do it. And that's one of those interesting things where it's like, as the yard is going, everyone's yards start looking kind of the same. And then it turns bad, and things go to shit because, the penguin, Feathers McGraw, hacks it and turns it into, and turns it evil. And it starts, ruining everything. And I think one of the interesting things is that this feels like a cautionary tale about artificial intelligence, down to the point that it's like, well, there are some things we can use it for. Like, it's a weird, like, kind of like centrist take on it, where it's like, that's kind of where we are now, with this issue of artificial intelligence, where it's like, it's all or nothing. It's you have people on the side of, we're going to use it for everything, we're going to use it for every aspect of what we do, and then you have people who are like, no, if you use it for anything, that's terrible, don't use it for anything. And you're kind of stuck, and I feel like there are things that artificial intelligence does well, and we've been using artificial intelligence for quite some time. Like, anytime you heard someone talk about the algorithm being used, like, that's it. Meanwhile, on the other hand, you got things like these meta profiles they made, where it's like, these are artificial intelligence people that you can interact with, and it's like, but who wants this? Like, what's the point of this? And if that's the case, like that's the issue, is that it's like you have so many bad uses for it that you're kind of stuck in this position where it's like, well, we can't use any of it as long as we have these bad things that it's being used for. It's taking jobs, it's doing this. And the thing is, too, it's like, I don't know if anyone else has seen these Apple AI commercials. They all feel like subplots out of, like, the George Costanza subplot of an episode of Seinfeld, where it's like, he would, like, there's the one with the guy who has to summarize the prospectus or whatever it is, and he just inches out of the room, uses the AI to give him a summary, then he comes back in and he reads out the summary, and it's like, that feels like a George Costanza thing to do. And what it does is, it's like, we're going to bring mediocrity to competency through the use of computers, but like, it's just bringing up the lowest, like, 10% of performers. It's a whole thing. I don't want to get on my AI, thing here. But the whole thing is, like, this idea of, like, what constitutes, like, does it have use? Like, there are things, like, at the end of the movie, he doesn't get rid of all of his inventions. Some of his inventions still have use. Like, but he realized that, like, there are things that I still need to do myself. I can't outsource everything I do to machines. Like, there are still some things I like to do myself. And I think he does come to realize that, like, things like, well, he may have seemed like he was working hard in the garden, but he liked doing that. And it's one of those things where it's like, I think that they handle that reasonably interesting. And then you take that and compound it with, like, the idea of the smear campaign done by malicious actors, which is the other part of Feathers McGraw's revenge. The whole thing is very well done, I think. And the animation is great. I love the stop motion, the claymation kind of thing. I love the aesthetic of the world. And I just like seeing these two characters. Like, these characters, they are, they're fun to be with, even if Wallace does stupid things and you feel exasperated on behalf of Gromit for a good amount of the movie. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's good fun, and I think this is a good family kind of movie that you can watch on Netflix at home. And I always feel like when I do these movies that I watch on Netflix, I always feel like I'm shortchanging them when I do the review, because I watch them and then I watch them the night before and then do this review the next day. But it is really a well done movie. I don't want that to be lost in the discussion here. It's a really well made movie. I hope they make more of these, because it's well done. And I think the thing is, too, that's also really interesting about this is that it's like, there's a lot of really, like, it's really funny, and not just this is a kid's movie, and it's like, that's the thing, is that it's like, when we talk about, like, older movies and stuff like that, there are movies that are, made for families that this is really just for the kid. If the kid enjoys him or herself watching the movie, good for them. But beyond that, we're not really here to, that's the most important thing, is keeping the kid entertained. Like, the parent who has to tag along for the 2 hours is kind of a, it's kind of an afterthought. Here, this is very much everyone who watches this will enjoy it. The kid watching it for the first time or the 15th time or whatever, the parent, I think a lot of the stuff really does land and work well. But yeah, and I love the cop lady, whose name I'm forgetting, who's like the new cop on the force. Like, there's this archetype of character that has kind of cropped up in recent years that I'm really starting to enjoy every time it shows up. It is the overeager, like, first day on the job or very early on the job, lady cop. Because it's like, we saw Saoirse Ronan did a really great job with this type of character and see how they run. And then, who was the other one who I forgot the actress's name, but from Wicked Little Letters, it is a very similar role. And I think that this, I don't know who the actress is who plays her in this movie, who does the voice acting, but she does a great job with this kind of overeager, I'm here to, I want to be a cop, I want to be taken seriously, I want to make a difference. Like, that whole, like, her whole thing is just a great, a great addition to this movie. That whole thing with involving the police the way they do could feel like you're just trying to pad out the runtime. But I think the dynamic between, like, the inspector and her is really fun. The inspector constantly being concerned about his legacy, but not in a serious way, just kind of like, oh, well, now I can't retire because my biggest achievement has been taken away. Like, and it's not like, it's something he's grappling with any meaningful way. He's just kind of, like, pissed off that, like, not that the diamond was actually stolen, but, like, that it was, that it was, he was the one who found it, and he got accolades for it, and he can't retire with that. Like, it's a really great kind of dynamic for these characters too, and I think that it's something that's like, when it cuts away to that from Wallace and Gromit and Norbot, or if it cuts away from Feathers McGraw, like, you don't feel like you are missing something by doing that. And I think the other thing that was really funny is that it's like, this is a sequel to a movie that came out years ago, and for Wallace to be like, wait, a chicken did this? When he shows back up and he's wearing the fucking glove on his head again. Like, it's just like, what the fuck? Like, it's such a great little moment. Like, this is a great movie. 5 out of 5. Go check it out. It is available on Netflix now. We will be doing Creature Commandos probably tomorrow morning. And next week we have Better Man, and there's one other movie next week. One of them days is 2 weeks from now. I forgot what the other movie is, but one of them days, one of them days is the week after. Definitely Better Man next week. But until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.